Welcome to Between X and Z with Wallace and Dozer. This is episode number 5, and we're going to call this obstacle, Be a Good Person. Now remember to follow us on Twitter at followxandz. Instagram, Facebook is going to be Between X and Z. iTunes, please hit us up, review us, let us know your feedback. Tell us we suck, tell us we're good. If you want to hear about something different, let us know. Subjects are always good. This is the feedback we want. Make sure to follow us and keep on it. All right, welcome to the show. I am Wallace.
And I'm Dozer.
Now, it's easy to say that we are good people, but in my opinion, the older that we get, the more things change from this kind of conditioned upbringing that we're all subject to. And, you know, we could think about you with whatever you've had as a kid to now you as a parent with your kids. How you kind of teach to be a good person is completely different from when you were a kid, right? Obviously.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I think being a good person on a lot of levels is subjective, right? Because there's a lot of people that think they're a good person and then they meet, you know, they do that under this certain realm. You know, like religion is a very good example of that. You're a good person for the things that you get judged on.
The
and
idealism.
Yes, and I mean, not to just point religion. I think that's everywhere. I think that's religion. It's politics, right? I mean, you believe. God forbid, if you believe in another thing, you're a terrible human being, and I just don't think that's true. But yeah, being a good person with your parent in regards, that's an interesting one because you kind of learn from experiences, right? Like.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, going back for millennials as kids, we had the internet that was very young, and we still had, you know, go back to your telephone, right? Go back to like, if I met a girl, I'd have to call their parents' house, talk to Mr. Johnson, to talk to little Debbie, you know, and then try to get to her.
Yeah.
Being a good person, I felt like was back in the day of early millennials was just mannered.
But wait a minute, we're talking. I mean, that's almost different than being a good person. That's understanding how to be a person to other people, which is simultaneously being a good person,
exactly.
Which is interesting.
It is very interesting because you look at now, and it's almost. I'm not gonna say that. Oh, you little whippersnappers out there now, but even just being in early 30s, you look at kids that are 17 to 20 that I don't even want to use the word respect because that does sound old, but it's just their actions, their behaviors are way different towards anyone.
Well, I think, you know, kids are even when we were kids, right? Kids just are rude. It's because you don't understand the consequences of life. You're trying to be funny, trying to do things. People picked on people when we were in school, you know. It
was accepted.
I've told you, I've picked on people. I'm sure you have made fun of someone in your life where it was, looking back, you go, man, I was just a dickhead. That usually happens, you know, when you're like in your mid-20s, you go, dude, why did I say that to that guy or whatever? You know, I was dumb, ignorant. I think kids today, though, people, though, I mean, it's not even just kids. This is that social media epidemic. Before you said something to someone, and that was what I said to you. I had to deal with the consequences of whatever you were going to do to me, Wallace. So if I just called you, you know, you're a piece of shit, and I'm going to beat the shit out of you, you know, or like
at 3 o'clock after school.
Yeah, I hope you die.
Yeah,
you could either take that and be really hurt by it, or you could say, you know what, fuck you, I'm going to come after you, Dozer. And there's that human interaction, but that's somewhat of why we're good people, right? Is because we want to be treated. You know, we should treat others how we want to be treated. That is that old saying, but
yeah.
When you're in this world today where you can kind of just throw a line,
you can be rude whether you're dating. You can be rude at jobs.
Oh yeah,
I
could just swipe right. I could just swipe right.
That's what it is,
dude. I saw this guy. This is kind of on the topic, but it is on the topic. I was just watching Twitter. Joe Rogan was posted something like, "Hey, Kevin Smith was on."
It's a good guess.
Yeah, but I find it funny now to read the comments. Some guy's like, well, if you didn't think of this, maybe you'd have a good show. And I just thought, look, you look at that guy's comments, and I just thought, you think that, that guy, what is wrong with that type of guy, that type of person, that type of behavior where it's like.
It's a voice that is in a comment that everybody wants to give the cliches in his parents' basement still. It's funny because...
But the sad part is he's probably not. He's probably the guy to the office to the right of you. And he's fucking hates his life. And, because let's be honest, you can say you don't like something. You could say, hey, I really don't like that person. I don't like their beliefs. But I don't think I could tell Joe Rogan how to make a good podcast.
Especially when it's almost 900 deep.
I just don't think I could tell him. I also don't think I could tell him how to be a good person or be. I don't think I could tell him how to do jujitsu, do MMA. I can't tell him to do what he knows how to do. And it's just an interesting fact that is that guy a bad person? I don't know. I kind of think
I don't think he is. I think the person is just victim of how millennials are these days because. If you look at how text and these comments and social media have replaced how we interact, granted, humans are still interacting the way we are. We still contact each other. I'm no longer calling Mr. Johnson. I'm directly talking to little Debbie on the phone, but I could be a dick. I could ghost. I could not write back for 3 days. It's almost like this is the learned way that we communicate now, but people are more rude. Do you know what I mean? And I think it goes... It could even... Joe Rogan talks about the whole car syndrome where people are such assholes because you're protected behind this glass steel car.
Yeah.
But if a confrontation actually was there, it'd be very different. So even thinking about when we were kids, and if you said you're going to kick my ass at 3 o'clock, I'm a piece of shit, it's just different. What we had was very different. And, being a good person then, you could just say it was just being a very well-mannered person. You fit into society at the time, but what does that mean today?
Yeah. It's
different.
It's interesting, though, too, because let's kind of go back to a good person. There's a lot of social media things that you can go off on, with being a good person. But I think really a good person is, you're not always a good person. There's not, I think history has proven that. Just life has proven that you're not always a good person. There's times where you go, man, I did something. Shouldn't have done that. Made a mistake. Was really
obstacles.
Yeah, really harsh here. But it really goes down to kind of working on yourself. Like, you ever seen a guy in Starbucks or wherever you go?
No.
Wherever you go, and the guy's like, dude, what the fuck? This is not what I ordered, or
this is not a double shot of chai.
This isn't a Frappa Mocha Latte Chai. Yeah, this is bullshit. And I ordered that, and I demand, and Starbucks was just one that I thought of where, like any service, where you see someone that just acts like a complete dickhead.
You're talking to a guy who's worked in the tourism industry for many years, and the reason I got out of it was because of the negative environment.
But why is that?
Every day.
Why does that happen? Because that's fairly common.
People feel entitled because when you talk service, you're talking money. You're talking this person paid for a service, therefore there should be something rendered back to that person.
But I almost think it's a little deeper than that. Because I agree with that, right? Like, if I have a shitty waiter or a waitress, I'm going to tip them. But I'm not going to tip them very well.
You're just going to give them the bare minimum.
Yeah, I'm not going to tip them very well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
So I don't know if I buy that it's the demand of service. I think that guy acts that way at the restaurant. He acts that way to his kids. He acts that way to his employees or his boss, his coworkers, his family, his friends. I think it's just that guy.
Absolutely. Because usually, in tourism, you see people that are supposed to be on vacation, taking a break from their travels, their business things, or whatever it is, if you're working in a hotel or resort or whatever it is. And for me, the funniest part was I considered I try to be a kind of a savior in the industry because you have a lot of people that are less educated, usually immigrants, that are working in these positions, and then you have these entitled fucks that come in and yell at them, right? And I had a lady that she was from 20 years living in this in California, actually, and she is from China and still had an accent, 20 plus years. I'm going to say even 25. And she, this guy yelled at her and said that his coupon should be worth for something, that he should be getting this room service. And I ended up picking up the phone next time. and let him have it. And I ended up calling the front desk manager who I knew, who then put him in the system for this big chain of tourism hotels, who then, if this guy ever checked in at a new place, that note would pop up at the next person. So he was basically blacklisted. And that was my version of saying, you need to be a good person because you don't know who you're fucking with. These people how do you talk that way to a stranger who you haven't even, the person hasn't even done anything wrong. They just picked up the phone.
It's an interesting thing, though, because is that guy a bad person? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, because that almost goes deeper. We're talking about a surface level thing. That guy might not be a bad person. He might be.
Could have been a bad day.
It could have been a bad day. Could have been, could have been just. It could have been anything. I mean, he could hate his fucking life,
and he hated it that night.
He could have just got diagnosed with cancer.
That could have happened.
No, those are, I guess, excuses. But I think what I'm trying to say is, there, man, who is that? Is it Confucius that says, be kind, for everyone you meet, is on their own journey or struggling with their own journey.
Sounds about right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That's the real problem. That's to me what being a good person is real. Because I have dealt with people at a hotel or something that are like, dude, I mean, you shouldn't be working. I'm surprised that you're working. You're not very bright at what you're doing. And it is, you are paying money. There is that service, and service aspect is just service, but you do kind of say, what the hell? But you have to kind of look at that person. Maybe that person, they're not robots. They're human beings.
Sure.
So it's interesting. I don't know what you think about that.
I saw that day in and day out. So the problem with, like, granted, some of these people could have just gotten diagnosed with cancer, lost their sister, whatever it is, but at the end of the day, no, not really, because they work for Goldman Sachs or they work for this other place. They're just pieces of shit. And the funny thing was, to round that story up, this nice gentleman got a call on the hour, every hour, until about 6 a.m. from an unknown subject.
Fucked with the wrong guy.
We fucked with the wrong guy because, who are you to do that? So that was one of those how dare you moments, and we moved on. And you know what? Maybe that changed something. But the funny thing is, kind of the reason I brought up this story today, this subject, is I had a millennial buddy that was taking a flight. He was on business, and he met a nice young lady, a young millennial, I'll say, and she was wearing a hat. Girls wear a hat, they're traveling, it's cute, whatever, but she was wearing a hat that happened to say, be a good person. And it's funny because my friend, that really stoked him out. He's kind of a later millennial, meaning he's towards the Gen Zs. He's still in his mid-20s, and he was so stoked at that. Like, he thought that meant something. We were like, oh, she's open. She's so mindful of things, and that was a big deal for him. And I laughed, and I was like, well, that's cool to see that. At least she's trying. But, everybody listening, you could just go in your Google machine right now, and you can type in be a good person. And the one big hit that comes up, probably paid for, is be a good person brand. It's funny that only a millennial kind of motto would get put on a fucking hat, a t-shirt, a coffee mug. It's just what we do. And I think that was kind of lame. I'm going to say lame.
Yeah. It's kind of like everything else in society today. I mean, remember that ALS bucket bullshit challenge?
Yeah, I just saw that. They found something good after all that, but there was a lot of water wasted.
But, the thing is, though, is you're not even doing anything for a cause. You're doing it to say that you're doing a cause.
And what do they always have to do with the ALS challenge? What always happened?
Yeah.
No, but somebody had to film you.
Yeah.
It was you being on.
Well, I mean,
something.
And that's great if it worked. I'm sure some people donated, but there's a term for that. I can't think of what it's called. It's like basically where you're being social and you're being this thing for other people, but you're really not doing it for the cause. You're doing it for, like, to say I'm part of that cause. I mean, that's why a lot of people protest.
Protest what?
Anything.
Sure.
Not anything, but a lot of the things where you see mass protests, the people actually have no fucking clue the details of any of what they're talking
Well, look
about.
at footage of any protest now. Everybody has their goddamn phone up because then they're streaming while they're there. It's the whole bucket challenge where you have, say, Ronda Rousey getting it, and then she calls out. Who did she call out after hers? It was Sylvester Stallone, and then another high-end actor who she just did the movie like Expendables with.
They're terrible movies.
Pretty bad, but that's a different generation. The Gen Ys and baby boomers probably love the fuck out of that movie. But
No, I think they're embarrassed by it, to be honest with you. Movies were much better in their day.
it's like my dad said,
Let's be
like,
honest.
Rolling Stones are awesome, but he doesn't want to see fucking Keith Richards shaking his ass at 82
Let's keep
years
it to
old.
the old shit you did. Well, I'm still fine. I'm fine seeing them, but let's keep it to the old shit
That's
you did. I don't
exactly
want to
what
hear
he
your new
said.
shit that's
It
like,
was-
I've changed and I found
That's
this.
the
No.
Bob Dylan aspect.
Yeah. Just listen to the shit that got you good.
That's exactly what it is.
Music and movies are like unique in that. Like I don't really want to see, Sylvester Stallone in a soft movie.
Jean-Claude Van Damme still fighting people.
Yeah,
It's pretty bad, but look at going with Ronda Rousey. What you just said was it. She called out some of the biggest stars in there. She wasn't calling out like a foundation, somebody who maybe means something to the cause that they were looking for. You know what I mean? It was a thing, like you said. It was a fucking thing just to be on.
Well, I think the
social
ice
media.
bucket challenge is kind of. I don't know. Some people might give a shit. I'm sure they donate. I'm sure there's things that were great with it. But
Of course.
the part is being a good person is more than just saying things, right? It's just like this. Not to get political, because I do not like Donald Trump either. But there were people smashing and destroying businesses over a presidential election, and they were saying that, basically like, this guy he's discriminating, he's gonna do this and this, and they're destroying local businesses. Like,
That have
how
nothing to
fucking
do with them.
dumb can you be? But in their head, you know what they're saying? We're a good person fighting for our good cause, and it's idiotic. I mean, it really is just insane that people do things like that.
Do you think it goes into the mob mentality where is that something in nature that just blinds us? You know what I mean? When people that would not do something in usually, that all of a sudden are now breaking windows and stealing shit and punching people.
Yeah, but I'm a pretty honest guy. Honestly, I wouldn't do that. I don't believe you would do that.
But if if for some reason you find yourself in this area, look what happens with the mob mentality. It just happens. Something changes that. There's like a surge of adrenaline. I don't know what it is.
But I think that happens. This is what I'm trying to get at. Doesn't that happen for a certain type of person? Like, let me be honest. I'm at a freaking party or something, like a concert.
Okay.
Right? And there's a fight. That's a lot of the mob mentality thing. Like, oh, let me just start hitting people.
No, I get out of the way because it's stupid.
I'm going to get whoever's with me, I'm going to get the fuck out of the way.
Yep.
Not because I'm a pussy, but because it's the smart thing to do, and it's dumb to do this, And it's like, I don't know. Some people, I guess, would say, well, you just don't believe in something hard enough, The guy protesting how someone's going to ruin our country is destroying the country. I mean,
Yeah.
like, no matter which side you're on, you cannot say that that's okay.
It's quite frankly illegal.
You can't say that that's smart. Or like Black Lives Matter, attacking white people, like white people are the issue, or and then the same thing, white people just targeting black people
that are at a Trump rally.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
their piece. Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're trying to defend. I get it. I do think black people are they're put in very shitty situations. We know this. I mean, look at the amount of things that are taken for drugs.
Look at prisons.
Prisons are a lot of blacks, and they're on drug crimes. Well, it's hard to live in a fucking ghetto. I mean, it's hard, and so it's just an interesting thing though where we go with being a good person, because it kind of goes to whatever cause you feel is okay. You can justify, and you can also compartmentalize.
And where do you get those causes? What brought you to this situation? You're 20 whatever year old, and now you feel this way because why? Like, where does that come from? Usually that comes from your upbringing and the shit you saw.
It comes from I wrote something down here. It's people need to work on themselves.
Mm-hmm. And people are scared of that. They don't have time
and
to do
I'm telling
it.
you, that is it's the toughest thing in the world, because I've been trying to practice that certainly later in my life, way more than ever in my life. And admitting you're wrong, saying you're sorry, saying, hey, I hurt you, I upset you, I disrespected you, I lied, I cheated, I stole. Those are hard things to do. But to me, that's a good person. Because I think a lot of times these people, this is me too. I mean, as people, we do things that kind of go and we say, I know I'm wrong, but fuck, he's more wrong. Or the other person is more wrong than I am. And I think if we just all could go, we could all just say our own shit. Like, hey, I fucked up. But you can't, because you do live in a crazy world. I mean, what's that story that you were saying? It was about your friend and
on the airplane?
No, the gym.
Okay, Jim.
We're gonna get there, but I think it's a good point to get to now.
It is, because look at the two differences before I get in the story of my friend seeing an image. So he sees, it's like watching the ice bucket challenge. He just visually saw something, whether it was the Be a Good Person hat or the ice bucket challenge, and then thought that meant something. When the funny thing is, it turns out that girl's friend owns that company, Be a Good Person brand or whatever it is. I obviously don't work for them. Please don't think I do, but it's just funny because that's just, we feel like we need to have this kind of method to be a good person. What's funny is if you look into the Google machine, and you type in Be a Good Person, the brand comes up first, but guess what comes up second? A wiki how. And then I clicked it. My dumbass clicks it, and I laugh because there's a billion little different articles with sketches and all this shit, but the number one thing that came up was only 3 steps, and one was like, I don't know, be gracious or something. It just was very stupid, because this is what millennials do. We think that you can YouTube it, you can look it up, you fix it, and then you just kind of forget about it. And that's not the truth, because until something real happens, it's not going to really sink in. And the story you're talking about, my friend had something real happen to him. I mean, has something, Dozer, think about in your life outside of military that has kind of shocked you into being like, what, maybe I should be a better person. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah, a ton of times.
Most people could say like, well, no, not really. Like me, I can think of many, many times.
Oh yeah, I mean, humbling experiences are ones where you can kind of go, what
truly sent you on a new path forever.
Yeah.
That has actually happened?
Oh, I think I've had that multiple times.
Most people will get the wind in the sails change for a little bit, but then they kind of reroute back to where they were, because it was just kind of like that. They ate the sandwich, they were full, they felt different,
because
and then it went back.
Dude, it's real easy to justify. It's real easy to justify, because your story, you haven't said it.
Yeah.
Can you say that? Because I think it's an important story, and then there's a lot there with what I was just saying.
Yeah. So I had a buddy that was going to the gym, and he's been known in my group of friends as being kind of a hothead, and he got cut off by a guy who coincidentally was going to the same gym as him. So he gets out, and the other guy gets out, who happened to be a very big gentleman going to the gym, and he popped off at the mouth, said something about the cutoff, and the guy just looked at him, and then my friend continued to talk shit. They were still apart from each other from their cars, but you know what the big guy said? He just looked at him. He kept letting him just blow off steam, is what I'm going to say for image purposes, and he just pointed at him. He fucking pointed at my friend and said, you should just be a polite guy. And my friend was taken back by that. At this time, he had played hockey. He was used to a brutal sport where you could fight, you could hit people. If you wanted that puck, you could get it. And he was I think he was off season, so his weight wasn't that good. And it seemed like he had a lot of pent up energy, because he did have a temper. He's just one of those guys. And then the guy said it again. He's like, just be a polite person. It's not hard. And my friend just went silent. And the funny thing is, we had a camping trip a couple weeks after that, and he brought up this story. And it was pretty incredible, because he kept talking about it. Like, that guy's 2 sentences from a situation that was real, in person, could have been physical, really hit home to him. And after that, he changed his ways.
But that's self-actualization. You know what I mean?
From what, though? You know what I mean?
I think he saw honest. I think he saw that the guy was right. And you know, you say like we all go through that on some level, right? You're never going to be a perfect person. A good person to me is a person that changes, a person that's reasonable, a person that makes, you know, makes their wrongs right, makes their bad behaviors or bad habits right. Because you can't you can't say if someone's a bad person because they did something bad.
Yeah, they fucked off. It's fine.
Or they believe something different than you. I mean, because I don't know. I think that's the interesting part with what you just said, though, because I heard this term too, and it is actually not religious, but light shines out darkness. Where there's light, darkness goes away. We actually operate that way in a business. You know, business partner that I have, kind of when I was in the mentor phase, that was kind of what he told me. Someone calls, you know, I work in sales. Someone calls you and they're really irritated. You know, what do? You just shine light on the darkness. And not obnoxious. You got to stand your ground because people just don't like robots. You know, if you want to
be reading a script.
Yeah,
like
if you want to defend your brand, which is what we do.
Sure.
We defend our brand. You got to shine lightness on darkness. I understand you're upset, you know, things like that. But listen, understand from our side. The problem is, though, just like your friend, that could have went a totally other way.
Oh.
And actually, it's very uncommon the way it went.
You know why? Because that guy was the light. You're correct. He was a big gentleman, probably trained in something, and he could have handled my friend very quickly, out of shape, out of season, and it would have taught him a lesson, but then maybe he would have gotten the wrong lesson. You know what I mean? It was one of those type of pen is mightier than the sword moments where he said something visually, or he just got this image in his head that, what the fuck am I? It was a self-actualization of, I do need to change what I'm doing. And, you know, the funny thing is he started listening to the JRE. He got into Rogan very much, liked his comedy before, ended up losing a lot of weight, started running marathons, changed his diet, and all this pent-up aggression and anger, and it just went out the fucking window because if we think about our diet and exercise topic from a couple casts ago, he did that. He actually made a lifestyle change to be a good person. Yeah. That was the mental game. And that is very hard to do because not everybody can commit, our favorite word, to rerouting your path.
But it starts at a fundamental root because part of being a good person is being happy. Right? Like, I mean, just think about that. How many bad people or people you would say that are really bad that are happy? You know, like they're truly happy people. I think happy people are good people because, you know why? They're willing to admit their faults. They're willing to admit, hey man, I didn't mean anything by that, or hey, I'm sorry. You know, I think that's the big deal. Is that honesty with yourself is by far, you know, the biggest thing of being a good person.
So I'd say it's the biggest obstacle too.
But it's fucking hard.
It's very hard.
It's really hard. It's really hard to take a look at yourself.
We have an ego, a general ego in our mind that doesn't want to recognize these faults, these flaws, whatever. And we'll do anything to kind of cover them up, stop thinking about it. Maybe you'll have that moment where, you know, I'm assuming maybe they've turned it off by then, but like a thief, whenever they're about to take something, there's just that moment where should I do this? Maybe, but in reality, maybe in their situation, they need the money.
But here's the problem:
for something.
It kind of goes back to this. It's a dog eat dog world, and I think that's people don't get that on a lot of levels. I mean, if you just see where social justice warriors are, and I mean just where our universities are going, where people are going, even politics. You know, it's like it's a dog eat dog world.
Oh yeah.
And but that's also why a lot of people are very angry or defensive or upset because, you know, people always say, "So I love world peace." That's great, but in order to have that happen, we all got to think the same exact way. That's the problem. Problem is not being able to see someone else's way or opinion and really discrediting it instantly. So it isn't, you know, when you're in a dog eat dog world, you go, fuck him. Fuck that guy that just did that to me. And that's just what it is. I don't give a shit about him. I hope he go. How many times do you hear people say, I hope that guy dies or something like that? You ever heard that? You
No,
really
he
sit,
runs off a cliff.
you really sit there and think about that. Like, you want that motherfucker to die?
You want that
You want that guy to die?
on your karma?
Yeah.
So do you think?
I mean, I've said that before, and it's when you really just look at it. It's terrible.
I've said some terrible shit, especially in combat sports and stuff like that.
It's the least of the
absolutely
what I've said.
Do you think that being a good person in a dog eat dog world is a sign of weakness?
A lot of times, yeah.
It almost happens in the dating world. What do they call that? They call that the nice guy finished last, right?
That's interesting. You know, I read a good book not too long ago called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Good title.
Really interesting book. A little deep, little different stuff that wasn't all me, but it was kind of about how people basically don't say what they feel. That's what, and that, you know, a lot of people struggle with that, and they start to build resentment.
There's a lot of cultures that struggle with
and
that.
they start to keep their struggles a secret because they don't want to tell other people. They don't want to have an honest conversation with their wife or their friend, or, you know, hey, what you did hurt me. I mean, it sounds so silly and stupid, but that's what intimacy is. And when you have intimacy with people, it's hard to not be a good person.
You're being open.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to not be. What are you angry about? Yeah, people slight you. Sometimes you got to stand your ground. Like I said, sometimes you got to say to a waiter, "Okay, come on, what's going on here?" You know, you're sitting there waiting 20 minutes and they don't help you serve. It doesn't mean you got to go, "Okay, great, I'm so happy and nice and smiling." It doesn't. Being nice doesn't mean you can't say what you feel. Actually, to me, it's the opposite. You should say what you feel, right? I mean,
yeah, there's that line that's "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness."
Yeah,
there's a time and place for it, and then there's a time and place to show your fangs. You just have to be. It's a situational thing. But you know, if I think about the whole nice guy finished last type thing, I think it's part of human nature to not want to be nice, to not want to let the person ahead of you to pass, to not get cut off in a car going to the gym. It's just one of those things where it's innate. We have this reptilian type backbone that's still, you know, violence is still at the core, and it's so hard to turn that off. And when you be a good person, you have these nice manners, you do all the things you just discussed, and I think a lot of people can hide behind that excuse. You know what I mean?
But the interesting thing, a concept that I'm trying to try on, is, for instance, I'll tell you this. I lived in San Diego, and right across from my apartment was a homeless guy. So I thought. He would sit there every day, beg with his little, hey, need help, whatever. Different sign. Yeah, kind of raggedy shirt. Every day I saw him. Every day. And then one day I was actually in the parking lot of the area across the street from my apartment complex, and the guy got into his Mazda RX-8, which isn't a really great car. It's a nice car, but I don't know how much it is, but it isn't. Certainly, if you have that, you shouldn't be homeless.
Absolutely.
And he just drove off, and I was shocked. And that stuck. I was pretty young. I was like 19, and that stuck with me for a long time. And I thought, fuck, man, I'm never going to help anyone. I'm never going to do anything because I can't trust where that's going to come from. And what I'm trying to try on for size now is it doesn't matter. I mean, it really doesn't matter if you gave that guy money. I feel that way. I'm trying to wear that. Sometimes it's hard, but just like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I say I'm sorry and you tell me to go fuck off. Okay. I can control what I can control. That's being a good person. And I think that's where we live in kind of this shame society and this shame culture. And, you know, we used to say it's from this or it's from Puritan beliefs, and now it's from religion. Well, what is it from now? I mean, what is it from now? Because it's not from religion. So is it just a human behavior?
That's what I think.
That we kind of go where it's just like shame in general. Because that's where a lot of this to me comes up with. Why are you a bad person? Well, you are afraid to admit I made a mistake. I did this because you know why? I might say, you know what, Wallace, I'm so sorry, and you tell me to fuck off. And now I'm like, oh, well, that guy hates me. No, well, now I can't be nice to him. I can't apologize for what I did. Really, where I really figured this out for myself and struggle with it still is with my wife, and with my kids. You notice that a lot with your family. It's just like this interaction of, I really don't want to tell you how I feel because it just pisses me off. It's like it's going to start a fight or it's going to do this, it's going to do that.
Boat.
Yeah, and with friends, where you always tell a friend something that's a hard news.
You're drinking too much.
Yeah.
You're being a dick lately.
Yeah, something's not right with you. Instead, I just feel like we live in this kind of shame culture where if you say really what you feel or if you admit a fault, you are afraid that someone else is going to reject you or someone's going to belittle you or find you weak or stupid. Men deal with that shit throughout.
And I think that all really stems from the tribal kind of factor of us because, what the hell is oxytocin? The bonding chemical in our brain that's released. What the hell is compassion? And really thinking about your words of the homeless person who, he's advantageous of everybody that has this kind of compassion that they can't control. And unfortunately, they're not using the logical part of their brain that says, this person's probably making more than me a year. Living in San Francisco for a few years really jaded me to homeless people because the majority of them were actually very aggressive and rude. So not only do people have compassion and like, oh my gosh, look at that. Look at honey. This guy has nothing. This girl has nothing. Whatever it is. Oh, they have a dog there too. Oh my gosh, we need to get money. But they're aggressive in getting that money. So they're really preying on that human compassion. And it is hard because look at what you just talked about with your family. You have a little tribe now of your own family, and getting along and being open and honest has been more. It's hard, but it's been more beneficial versus what you just said with guys having issues with that because you don't want to feel dejected. You don't want to feel like you are weak within the men tribe of hunters. It just goes. It really comes into this tribe mentality that we still have in us.
Yeah, and I've always struggled with, and I'm not getting into the science part of it, but the tribe mentality. On some level, I get it, but I think there's been a lot of years of separation from it. So I think there are basis of it, but I think sometimes and I'm not saying with what you just said, because I do think there is a huge factor of that. But let's be honest, being a man in society today I think it's fucking harder than it was in a tribe. I mean, are you kidding? Maybe, and that's, some people will say, well, yeah, we'll go live in a tribe. But, dude, I mean, it is different. There's a lot of shit that we have to worry about now that we just didn't have to before.
And that's the hard part of the human condition, I'll say, is because just like we don't have to have muscles to go fight saber-tooth tigers anymore. We have these chemicals that still release to make us want to plant seeds everywhere. We still have these chemicals that do shoot out the compassion and oxytocin to keep the tribes going. But how to act in society now from being very independent from these tribes and civil is what the word I want to use. Being civil, living the modern man is a fucking mind fuck because it's just our bodies and brains haven't caught up to it yet. And then now we're changing even faster into this millennial technology world, which now we're bypassing the body almost 100%. And if I wrote a book, the first title would be The Brain is Winning, because the body is just not catching up. It really isn't. And it's really weird when you think about being a good person and kind of how society is today, because look at the story on the airplane. That girl's friend sold the stuff. She's wearing that hat. My friend bought into this visual image, not just looking at her behaviors or how she was with people. It was just this fucking hat that made a nice aura over her right away. And that's a millennial looking into something that just said, oh, she's really different. She's want to have this, be a good person. And that's scary because he's a good guy. He's very intelligent. But it was kind of a showcase of what millennials are doing.
Yeah, but
today.
You said she was super hot, too.
So
then
that
she could have been wearing a hat with a fucking,
a donkey dick on it.
Yeah, the guy was like, Oh wow, she's amazing.
So that was just the cherry on top to a hot woman. So then there you go. There it goes back to that monkey human emotions where we still have this natural kind of blockage of what we are. And look at the 50s, look at the 60s, look at anything we grew up in the 80s where we did have to have manners. I think manners and being a good person tie hand in hand, and I think we're lost all that because we don't need to talk to people face to face anymore. We don't have to be civil in a sense of using social interaction. That is gone. That is fucking gone.
It's interesting because I kind of have a few different, I don't want to say different, but just odd things. Side note, I watched this crazy documentary.
Awesome.
On Netflix about...
Sober?
Oh, yeah. Uncontacted tribes. Blew my fucking mind away. And I've heard this before. I've done a little bit of stuff in it on, like YouTube and shit. Dude, it's fascinating because just to... I know people are going to beat me up for this because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, the tribe mentality. And I agree with it. I mean, on a lot of levels, I agree with it. But I don't think those people... I asked my wife, I said, are they happy? Do you think they're happy?
That's a big question.
And do you know what, though? There was a tribe that basically, I don't know, it was like a year ago for the first time, contacted Brazilian government because they were being pushed by the Peruvian government and being killed. And so anyway, there's a whole government organization. I don't want to take up the whole time here doing it, but it's interesting because it does tie into our thing. Everyone kind of think, at least I did. I thought uncontacted tribes were like, oh, they just didn't want our outside stuff. They didn't want that. They wanted to keep their stuff pure and they didn't want to really expose themselves. Actually, and I don't think this is all of them, but do you know what it was?
What?
They were fucking scared. They were petrified. And it kept passing down in society that...
You got to fear the white man.
The white man, because there was a rubber plant and rubber factory came in and they just killed these people.
Yeah.
So they kept pushing further back in the bush. But the interesting part goes back to the topic. Were they happy? They fucking hated it. They were miserable.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the... I saw this funny image. I wish I could find it. Somebody could easily find it. It's even going into the paleo diet where people making fun of it, they have these cavemen and there's one that says like, have you tried the new modern man diet? And like, I heard people can live to like 95. You know what I mean? It's like, of course they want to eat good shit. They want those Oreos or the beers or whatever. But interesting thing, if you look at like a lot of African literature, I studied some of it. And, when we colonize, when a lot of countries colonize, whether it's Portugal, Belgium, France, England, a lot of countries went in and really raped the area and shocked the fuck out of these indigenous cultures. Were they quite frankly in their literature they were happy without it because they had their songs, their way of religion. And
have you ever heard of North Sentinel Island?
No, what is that?
Oh, dude, get high, go to YouTube, and just look for some shit on North Sentinel Island.
Done.
It is an island owned by India. I think India.
Okay.
It has never been contacted. Anytime anyone ever goes there, they come out and throw spears at them. 2 fishermen got close like in 2009 or something like that and got killed. These indigenous people killed them. They will not take outside resources. There was a tsunami not too long ago, and they sent a helicopter just to see, hey, are these people still okay?
Yeah.
And they think it might have decimated the population. But sure as shit, dude, a couple days after the tsunami, this motherfucker's coming out with a spear, throwing it at the helicopter. It's crazy. So there's like nothing, no one really knows what these things are. But it kind of goes back, citing in the good people concept. Back the rubber plants. Why do we do that? Because that's kind of what we do with people. We do that. We are very odd with people that are different from us, right? Whether it's black, white, whether it's race, whether it's sex, no matter what it is, you're kind of, people are always uncomfortable, and you find that you stick to like-minded people, which is somewhat of the weird problem that we have.
tribe. You fit in, right? Don't you fit in? We always want to belong. We want to find our niche. We want to find our CrossFit gym, our hobbies. Now, the thing with...
Yeah, but did tribes get to pick who the fuck was in their tribe?
I mean,
no, but did they? I mean, some maybe, but like...
It was conditioning, yeah.
I think they were different, you know? I think I just... One, I mean, you're talking about people that didn't get to do... Hey, you know what I want to... I like CrossFit. Hey, you know what? Actually, I'm gay. You know,
like... I'm going to try something.
I'm going to do this. Yeah, so, but still, it was kind of like everyone... I'm sure in most tribes there was, hey, you're weaker. You know, like, and you're supposed to be a hunter. Why don't you do this? You know, and I'm sure, but people are people. I'm sure that they still outcasted and ridiculed people like that.
No, I mean, look at wolf hierarchy. They still have the Omega. That's the class clown in a sense, where they have to pick on it. They have to have something on the bottom. But if you look at, they need that Omega because they need to have laughs. They need to have this kind of social circle connectivity. And the issue with the tribes, here's really interesting. I was on top of Machu Picchu a few years back, and I was talking to this lady that was from Cusco, which is the most spiritual and kind of the most down to earth as well out of the whole Peruvian culture. And I was talking about how there's only like 15% of these trails discovered of Machu Picchu in kind of this Aguas Caliente area up there. And what was fucking fascinating is she said that only a few weeks back, an indigenous tribe from the Amazon approached the Machu Picchu, kind of Aguas Caliente is the small town below it, which where a lot of people live and make money. The tribe approached them with spears and shit and wanted to talk to the leader of the tribe. They didn't know it was a town. They didn't call it a city or anything like that. They said, we want to speak to the leader because of the tourism was kind of getting into their area. This isn't fucking 2013. And there's still indigenous tribes with spears coming out and wanting to talk to the leader of the other group.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was like, can I see? Do you still have? Does anybody get pictures?
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's awesome.
It blew my mind. I mean, and it's like it's a little off topic, but it's. I think the part that brings it back to the topic is we do, you know, like we kind of want for people what we want, and that sometimes makes us bad people.
That's what colonization was.
Yeah, well, like. Honestly, religion. I looked at these people and I kind of thought, my first initial thought is, man, how sad is that? Like, how sad is it that they don't... In this specific tribe, back to the reason they hated it was because they were being killed. Absolutely, they were being killed for just run off. But there are a lot of tribes that don't hate it. A lot of tribes that just don't want to... They just don't want to contact. They're like what they are and they believe what they believe.
That's it.
But it was just... I don't know. It was really fascinating to me that there was a lot of mixture of how we think people should live. And there's a general consensus, right? Obviously, we want these people in tribes because it's healthier. They don't die as quickly. They can get vaccinations and stuff. But let's take this back to what we were talking about. Politics. You want someone to believe in what you believe, and if you don't, they're a bigot, asshole, loser. Uneducated, uninformed jerk, and it's the same way pretty much everywhere
in any phase. And thinking about the hat, you know, it really kind of bothers me. With
this hat is pissing me off. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's annoying. The shirts were terrible on the website, by the way. Good luck to your business. That's fine, but
he's probably laughing all the way to the bank. Let me just tell you that.
Yeah.
He sold a dumb fucking slogan. Be a good person.
And a millennial idiot bought it. But you know, look at the happiness, you know, kind of drive, and a lot of people think that money equals happiness, and I'm one of those that I agree. I think money does give you the kind of route to happiness, but the one thing that really kind of ruffles my feathers is when really thinking about what you just said, somebody wants other people to feel what they feel, so they try to push it on them, right? It's always these people that were like very wealthy, very well off, whether it was family, that are doing this job or making the money how they're making, whether it's oil and gas or banking or finances, whatever the fuck it is. And then they come out of it, they have this epiphany in life and say, you know what? I just wasn't happy. Yeah. And I'm doing what I love now, thinking about our last cast. And you should too. You should really do what you love now. But the thing that ruffles my feathers is these people are well off. They don't have the normal struggles of the people in the ghetto that can't be happy yet because they're fucking trying to find where they're going to eat tonight.
I told you before we kind of disagree on this, which is great, because I think there's no right answer. It's just an opinion. Now I don't like when incredibly wealthy people. Who did we use? Ty Lopez, and ironically, I just saw that guy. Like, I mean, and I'm not shitting on that guy, but I don't generally like that. Yeah, I don't like where it's like, hey, this is my path to wealth, and I think you can do this path as well, and you can be happy, and you're and
sell makeup products, and you can make your own schedule, and you can live your life.
But I think that's human instinct, right? Because that guy does that. Yeah, he probably does help people. I don't know him enough to say anything. But I also think he does that to profit from it. I think he does that to kind of get an ego boost. But that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's because a lot of people, everyone does things for an ego boost on some level. I mean,
it feels good to get
compliments. Yeah, it feels good to be able to teach someone something and, hey, look at me. Look at how awesome I am. I was talking to my wife about this. Like, for me, just imagine being like a CEO of a company or a visionary or something. Like, of course you want to be that, but I don't think that makes you happy. I don't think money does make you happy. I think Tosh has that thing like, you don't think money makes you happy. Money buys jet skis, and you ever seen someone upset on one of those? It's a great joke.
That's perfect.
And it's funny, but I think money helps, right? It's another thing to not worry about.
But that's the problem is you wake up. Look at people that are rich and well off. They always have the same fucking general nice skin. They look healthy because they don't have these kind of minimal struggles that are like a fucking chisel just every day. Your nutrition is down. You're stressed about this. You got to buy diapers. You can't afford that. You have these little chisels of stress that hit you every day. Those people wake up in a fucking, I don't know, a cloud, and everything is okay.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I disagree. And here's why. I just don't. I think, yes, they don't have the obstacle of affording diapers, or maybe their skin looks great and they can juice in the morning, and they have a perfect 400 calorie, perfect mix of protein meal. But they might not be happy. Because I just don't think happiness equates to money. Here's the thing. They don't have the little chisels. You know what they have? The big chisels. Because they could lose everything. They could, it could all be gone. And I think...
How, though? Wouldn't that become an intelligence issue? Then that's a Darwinism thing.
Oh, no way.
They blew it somewhere.
No. I mean, dude, there's guys that have gone from...
Here's
the deal. You're worth $100 million. If you're now only worth 20, you're fucked. Like, I don't think that, like, you got to let that sink in. And that sounds crazy to most people, but come on. You know that in your progression of life. Think about this. If you went back to the financial status you had when you were in college, would you be fucked currently today with your current responsibilities?
I don't know. I keep the same kind of mentality of budget. So if you gave me $100 million or $20 million or whatever, I feel like I could do well.
Hey guys, we had a little bit of technical difficulties there and lost some of our audio, but overall great podcast about how to be a good person, just our thoughts on it. And I think we ended with a pretty good question, which was, does money make you, obviously it makes you happy, but does it make you truly happy and allow you to be a better person? So would love to know your thoughts, love to know your opinions on this entire podcast and these topics. So that's it. Let us know.
Give us feedback. It's really easy. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. The Facebook, Instagram is just between X and Z. Twitter's follow X and Z. Pretty easy. You could just leave us comments. We're pretty active on it. Please, the iTunes, once again, rate it, review it, say we're good, say we suck, give us ideas. Even if you're going through some shit, tell us.
Absolutely. Let us know. Feedback. let us know anything. I mean, we're just doing this to just kind of learn these obstacles that we're climbing ourselves, and we'd love to hear feedback or success stories or other ways to do it. So this has been a great episode of Between X and Z. I am Dozer.
This is Wallace.
Hey, guys, keep climbing. See ya.
Later.